Again, thank you for joining. My name is Christopher. Uh, Key messages right now, still hot today, so everyone kind of continue to make sure everyone still takes their, hydrates, find a way to cool off this afternoon. Uh, we will, we're already seeing some heat in the seas around, what was it, just before the briefing started, around 105 to 114 across of course, the highest heat in the seas are right around the tidal lakes and coastal Mississippi. Also, we'll probably start to see a few showers and thunderstorms pop up, especially around coastal Mississippi in the next hour or two, and then maybe moving into far, I hate to say northeastern, but far northeastern portions of our outlook area. So like Walthall County, maybe Pearl River County into Washington Parish, and it may continue to try to slide down to the southwest through the remainder of through the early evening hours before dying off. We do have this kind of weak boundary that's draped over the area. It's kind of stalling already. Um, so that's the main focus. Going to be the next couple of days is going to be that boundary. Overall, again, impacts are not really expected to be anything more than minor for most of the region. Mainly looking at some isolated strong to severe storms. That potential is mainly today. You've probably, if you've been on these calls for a couple of years, you've heard us mention about what we call northwest flow. We get that in the summer. We tend to have later thunderstorm development, which allows us to get hotter and therefore more unstable. And so we can typically get a few strong to maybe one or two severe storms when we get in that type of environment. We definitely have that in place today, maybe tomorrow, although a little concerned, at least what they were showing earlier in the week, was what we call shortwave ridging. It's basically just high pressure moving back over the area for a very short time frame, which may suppress thunderstorm development tomorrow. But we're still looking at mainly just isolated scattered storms even tomorrow. Maybe a little bit better chance this weekend, especially Saturday and going into Sunday. Do have a little better what we call upper level environment, but because storms may develop earlier, we're not going to probably get as unstable. A lot of moisture in the air too, so it makes it storms can develop real quick too. So there is a chance for some isolated locally heavy rain possible. There is a chance today, but probably more so if we get storms tomorrow and especially Saturday along that boundary tomorrow, and then Saturday with a little bit better environment in place. Not really expecting widespread heavy rain, so you'll see in a little bit what the rainfall amounts we're looking at, which are not very much. And then rain chances, I hate to say it, start to decrease again as we move into the work week next week. And of course, with that, we'll start seeing the temperatures start to climb once again. So going to the current radar right now, this is you can see where we have some isolated scattered storms starting to develop especially across Alabama, Mississippi border there, but going into South Mississippi. So just outside of our area, north of Walthall County, but across like Hattiesburg, so Forest County there in Mississippi. Nothing in coastal Mississippi yet, but I wouldn't be surprised to see, you can kind of see where that maybe boundary is, or at least, those storms are probably developing right behind it. So that boundary is probably draped right now from south of Vicksburg to between, running it between Macomb and Hattiesburg and down towards just south of Mobile. So you can see where storms are trying to develop, and they're probably going to continue to expand over the next few hours. With those storms, obviously, locally heavy rainfall is possible because their rainfall is pretty efficient with thunderstorms. However, given the instability today and the northwest flow, as I mentioned earlier, we could see a few strong to maybe severe storms. The main concern is wind. We'll show that outlook in a little bit from the Storm Prediction Center, but I can't rule out some very small hail with any of the stronger storms we get. Real quick, tropical weather outlook. There are no tropical concerns. Yay for the next 7, probably 10 days, probably even longer than that, especially for our area. That front's not going to make it into the Gulf, so we don't have to worry about anything trying to develop along it as it stalls. Matter of fact, it's going to start probably dissipating even some late tomorrow, but if not, at least drifting back to the north on Saturday. Severe weather outlook. This is for the remainder of today. As you can see, there is a marginal risk mainly over Jackson County and Harrison County in coastal Mississippi. And it's a level 1 of 5. Not really concerned about severe weather overall, but again, as mentioned earlier, given the northwest flow, the instability, and the moisture we have, can't rule out a few strong to maybe 1 or 2 severe storms. Main concern is strong to damaging winds. So winds about 60 miles an hour with the strongest downburst that we get. But again, can't rule out some small hail. So you look at pea size, maybe half inch. You know, obviously, if we get a really, really strong thunderstorm, you know, we've had larger hail before in the summer, but that's not the primary risk, especially given the amount of moisture we have. The excessive rainfall outlook. Looking at tomorrow, you can see the. Just want to double check. Yeah. Make sure you can see the outline of the marginal risk for excessive rainfall. That's because of that boundary that's going to be draped across the area. I mean, they did drag it past New Orleans, past Hammond, you know, going through most of Southwest Mississippi. The predominant area of rainfall is going to be along and just north of that boundary. So definitely a little bit more concerned with, you know, not necessarily concerned, but the potentials like coastal Mississippi and areas east of I-55 across southeast Louisiana and southwest Mississippi. The environment's favorable. We'll have unstable conditions, definitely a lot of moisture. Don't quite have the upper level support, so I'm not expecting the more numerous storms, which that would allow us to get a little bit more unstable. But storm motion is going to be very slow, and along with that boundary, there is that potential for, you know, storms to kind of redevelop along the boundary, and you know, give us some locally heavy rainfall. You know, so isolated heavy rain is possible. That then obviously in the summer it could quickly get to an inch or more. In those very isolated locations, that would lead to ponding of water and isolated flash flooding in low-lying and poorly draining areas. However, again, this is, again, I said this term multiple times, isolated. It's going to be very, you know, spotty. Most of the area is not going to see much in the way of rainfall, probably less than a quarter of an inch overall where it does rain, but some areas will see some heavier rain. Going into day 3 outlook from the Weather Prediction Center, you can see the boundary is pretty much gone, but we do get into a better upper level environment. The good thing about that though is that showers, thunderstorms will probably develop a little bit earlier. Probably more widespread, not so widespread, but more showers with embedded thunderstorms, mainly because of a lot of moisture in the area, but some weak support aloft. That does kind of start to remove the potential for severe weather. You know, still can't rule out a few strong storms. But then there will be pockets of locally heavy rain again with that. Overall, though, it seems like the heavy rain is going to probably remain mostly east and northeast of the area. Again, any areas we do get that locally heavy rainfall, you know, isolated flash flooding in low-lying and poorly drained areas is possible. So your rainfall forecast next 7 days is primarily for the next 3 to 4 days. As we get to next week, this rainfall is going to be pretty difficult to come by again. Again, with that stationary front, do have a little bit better chance. You know, tonight, not overnight, but this evening, and then tomorrow afternoon, early evening, and then kind of all day, possible potential Saturday, and even going into Sunday before the support starts to move off to the east and northeast. You know, showers, thunderstorms through the weekend. The heaviest rain, again, it said, looks to be east and northeast of the area. So you see this image here, you know, some really heavy rainfall across South Alabama and the Florida Panhandle, you know, areas that they definitely need the rain too. We've gotten our good bit of rain the last few months. Obviously we could use the rain to help keep things cooler, but they definitely are in need of rain over there. But it looks like we can get some heavy rain, especially across coastal Mississippi and maybe some coastal areas of Louisiana where we can get the sea breeze convection to develop. Overall, looking at half an inch to maybe 2 inches of rainfall widespread with some isolated, locally isolated higher amounts. But again, rain chances do begin to decrease going into the new work week. Looking at the kind of extended outlook here, I hate to show it, but need to show it anyway. It is summer. We understand that. But your 8 to 14 day outlook does show that the potential for above normal temperatures starts to increase, and mainly because we're probably getting back to that pattern where that ridge is going to be centered off to our west, mainly kind of over the Four Corners, you know, Southern Rockies, and stretching into the Central and Southern Plains area. So that does increase the odds of us seeing above normal temperatures heading into the second week of August. However, on the rainfall potential, it's a little bit more interesting, and it's definitely going to be more dependent on certain things. 8 to 14 day outlook shows us near normal. And again, because if that ridge is centered off to our west, you may have heard the term before, the kind of ring of fire, that little periphery on the outside of that ridge is where we get a lot of thunderstorms to develop, and it kind of rounds, it goes up the ridge, rounds it, the top of it, and comes back down towards the southeast. Depending on where we are in relationship to that ridge, we could be on the eastern periphery, which then gives us the potential of seeing some of those thunderstorm complexes move into our area. Again, that's why they have near normal, because we could be drier, or we could be slightly above normal. It just really going to depend on where those thunderstorm complexes move down, uh, and where we are in reference to the center of that ridge. So it's just something to kind of keep an eye on as we go into mid-August. And pretty much that's about it. Kind of summary again here. I don't have it here in the first bullet mainly because we're looking forward, but you still have that heat the remainder of today. There is no heat headlines tomorrow, yay, and probably going to keep that out at least through early next week. We'll see if we have to start issuing heat advisories once again late next week. The overall impacts not expected to be anything more than minor for most of the region. There is still a chance of isolated strong to severe storms today and into the early evening hours, and then kind of move to more potential of some locally heavy rain, some isolated areas that could lead to ponding, to maybe some flash flooding in poorly drained and low-lying areas, especially along that boundary tomorrow, kind of going into Saturday. That said, rainfall amounts overall look to be light for most of the area. There will be some pockets of some heavy rain, again, very isolated, but most of the area is just going to see some light rain. Rain chances do start to increase once again heading into the new work week. Temperatures start to climb back up, and it's summer. It's August. That is everything on my end. Are there any questions?